Why wildlife management? Hello everyone, my name is Brittany Hethcock and I am pursuing my master's degree from American Public University. I chose wildlife management for many reasons, and really there are too many reasons to list. It was a very personal decision for me, and the path to get to this point is also very personal. As best as I could, I have summed up my early experiences and choices that have led me to this point. I've chosen the prominent points that I find to be the basis for my wildlife passion and my education and work experience thus far. I look forward to sharing some of my memories and photos with you all along the way. My earliest childhood experiences. As a child, I grew up in the suburbs of San Antonio, Texas. We had one cat and one dog, but overall I was not exposed to many different animals at home. My grandfather was really the only person I would deem an animal lover in our family, at least anything that even slightly resembled my love for them. I remember his house had large frame prints of tigers, bears, and deer. This sort of decor always seemed very normal to me. We would sit and draw animals together and watch National Geographic shows every day. I was also very fortunate to live in a town with remarkable animal parks, such as the San Antonio Zoo and SeaWorld. It was at these places that I gained my obsession for animals, especially whales and dolphins. The ocean, to this day, is one of the most amazing places to me. When I was around 10 years old, I remember checking out a book from the library. It was a children's book about zoology. I remember it had an orange book cover with different animals on it, including dinosaurs. I read it cover to cover at least 3 or 4 times. I was one of those obnoxious children who went to the zoo or to SeaWorld and could spout off information on animals to any family member who would pretend to listen. I've always known that my dream was to work with wildlife in some way, shape, or form. My friends still jokingly say that if there's an animal within a mile of me, we will find each other. When I was around 12 years old, my family moved to the suburbs of Denver. Here we rented a home in Broomfield, Colorado, and could not have any pets. It was absolutely miserable for me. About a year later, my parents were relocated for work and we moved to the mountains outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we bought a home and 2 acres of land. Suddenly, there were coyotes running in the fields across the street and bears digging through our trash cans. I took to the country life like fish to water. I don't think I will ever be able to live in a city again. This move definitely changed my entire outlook on my future plans. At the age of 14, I took a job with the Youth Conservation Corps at Wildlife West Nature Park in Edgewood, New Mexico. I worked here until I was 20 years old. Each summer, I spent weeks caring for abandoned baby mule deer, trimming the nails of javelina, feeding all of the animals, and learning to handle birds of prey, and often spent days at summer camps and schools to educate about red-tailed hawks, peregrine falcons, and great horned owls, among many other things. The gentleman in the picture is Tom Smiley, who worked directly with the recovery of the peregrine falcon in Idaho and the northwestern states. He also worked at the Albuquerque Zoo for many years as the star of the bird show. I was fortunate to meet many knowledgeable animal lovers, who only made my desire for a career with animals that much more. All of these photos I pulled from the Wildlife West Nature Park website. During my teenage years, I spent 5 years as a camper at the New Mexico Forestry Camp, and then twice I worked there as a counselor. It was 1 week per year in the Jemez Mountains in northern New Mexico. I would spend the entire year looking forward to that 1 week I could spend reconnecting with nature, and each year I took away something new. It was here that I met Richard Bodner. Richard was a Chautauqua, which is a speaker or performer who would become a famous individual. Richard was Aldo Leopold. I still have a signed copy of the book, A Sand County Almanac, that Richard gave me. When he gave me the book, he told me that I would become anything I wanted, and he felt I would be a wonderful forester. He also told me that I had a passion for nature that he could see, very similar to that of Aldo Leopold. It changed my life in many ways. At that time, I wanted to be a forester. As an adult, I've been very fortunate to travel across the western half of the country. I have visited both oceans and the Caribbean more than once. Many of my experiences with animals have been on excursions or at various aquariums and wildlife parks. Wherever I've traveled, it's always been arranged for me to meet animals, whether by myself or with others. At this time in my life, I was not as educated on the treatment of animals at many of these parks. Today I much prefer a long hike or a chance encounter than to meet a captive animal, but I remain grateful for the opportunities I've had. In the bottom right-hand picture, I bonded with a dolphin named Shadow at the Texas State Aquarium. Every few months I would travel to Corpus Christi, Texas to visit family, and each time Shadow would greet me through the glass. He would do tricks for me without any precursor. In this photo, he would lay on the bottom of his tank right next to me. It's a memory that will always be with me. I started school at Eastern New Mexico University and immediately enrolled in their Wildlife and Fisheries Bachelor's program. Unfortunately, life took a different turn and I ended up taking a year and a half off for personal reasons. My personal decisions didn't end up working out and virtually left me broke and homeless. At the age of 24, I moved back in with my parents and I went back to school. I needed to find a job and a way to support myself, so I finished with a Bachelor of University Studies with an emphasis in history and agriculture, basically as a last option to finish school. Overall, it took me 7 years to obtain my bachelor's degree. I will always recount this as one of the biggest mistakes I've made. After moving home, I spent 2 years as a docent for the Albuquerque Zoo, and of that I spent 6 months training to handle the animals for education outreach, and met many of the wonderful creatures that they have. It kept me busy until I was able to find full-time work. I took a job as a supervisor with a school for before and after school programs. I was allowed to develop my own curriculum, and of course with my background I spent a lot of my time teaching the students about wildlife and nature. I was also able to develop an 8-week curriculum for their summer program. Unfortunately, the program closed at the school where I was working, and I once again needed to find employment. I applied for many jobs within the wildlife spectrum, however because I lacked the specific degree, I was overlooked for those jobs. I finally found a job working for the state of New Mexico as a family assistance analyst. This is just a fancy way of saying I'm a caseworker. I will be the first to admit that I don't particularly enjoy it, but I was always taught to work hard and to be thankful just to have a job. I remind myself of this every day, but I decided it was time to follow my dreams and fulfill my passion. This was a career of necessity and not choice. So I began school at American Public University in October of last year. I'm still working full-time, but can still make strides towards my goals. I would have to say that my dream job would be to move back to Texas and work in the Gulf with marine mammals. However, I don't have any specific goals, though. In a Sand County almanac, Aldo Leopold said, "There are 2 spiritual dangers in not owning a farm. One is the danger of supposing that breakfast comes from the grocery, and the other that heat comes from the furnace." This quote has always stuck with me each time I've read the book. At this time, I've met the love of my life and we've started building our other dream, which is a small farm. We have 8 chickens and 4 ducks right now, with 30 more chickens and 4 more ducks on the way next week. We own 2 acres in the Estancia Valley outside of Albuquerque. We raise veggies and live with our menagerie of animals, which includes 2 cats and 3 dogs, 3 cockatiels, and 1 African pygmy hedgehog. In conclusion, I chose wildlife management because it's just my dream. There's no other way to put it. I've spent my entire life dreaming of having a career in wildlife, and I'm looking forward to finishing my coursework and moving forward. Thank you very much.